Sunday. And I was going to say that can only mean one thing, but that's ridiculous. It can mean a lot of things. But one of the things that it means is that 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we get together for Sunday Night Teacher Talk, because we are, look, I'm constantly relearning this lesson. And that is who you're needed to be might not be this version of you, right? So the question is, who do you need to become to live the life that you want to live? Because we're not just trying to be good teachers. We're trying to live great, full, harmonious lives too. And harmony.
Oh my.
Whew, all right. That feels a little wishy-washy, but what we're doing is trying to live a life that's like, feels like it's got a good rhythm to it. And so that's where we're coming from. So we meet here every Sunday night, which is really 1:30 in the afternoon, but to do this Sunday night teacher talk. So if you have a question, you can put it in the there's a ton of them in there already. I saw you can put it in the comment section. If you put Q or question next to it, just helps us find it faster. But that is kind of where we're going from. Let me know when you get that thing situated. I'm going to talk about it anyway. Don't even sweat it. Questions. So before we jump into this, I keep saying we're building stuff to help people next level their education. Sorry, I don't have my wedding ring on right now. It's bothering me. So one of the things we're trying to do is, from now until, I don't know, the end of eternity, who knows? We're going to try it out, see if it works. We're going to do mini PDs every week. Instead of just putting out videos, I'm going to put out a live feed. It's only on YouTube. And it will be every Monday at 11 a.m. Now, I realize that that's not optimal time for people, but there's two reasons I'm doing this. One is the live component allows me to just get something out, feels like a real PD. It'll be slides. It'll be all the stuff that like you would normally see like in a workshop or something like that we do. But my hope is that for some people, if you can tune in at 11, maybe you're eating lunch at school, maybe you have a prep period or something like that. Maybe you need a little dose of positivity, of inspiration, of just attention. I don't know, like get your mind off it. So we're going to do it at 11 a.m. every Monday, Eastern Standard Time. And then that will just post like a video. So those will live on in perpetuity on YouTube. So even if you can't make it live, you can watch the recording. So that's one thing that's going on. And then should I talk about the other thing that we're going to? No. Okay, cool.
Because you don't have a sign up.
You're the best.
Keep
me grounded. And so, yeah, so
we have lots of other stuff coming down the pike. You just gotta
a lot.
We're trying to be very good at planning, which is not always CJ's strong suit.
I jump the gun.
He just gets so excited. He just can't. He can't.
Last week I said we were going to start these kind of things last week, and then it didn't happen. So
because we just couldn't.
No, because I get more excited than I should.
Yeah.
Hey, if you don't know about the Eagles are in championship game today. So and then if we win this, we go to the I almost said World Series. That's how long I've been watching football. Go to the Super Bowl. So we got all the green lights on in the background and stuff like that. And what you can't see is that my wife is dressed in the Eagles mascot costume right now.
Totally. Yep.
She would.
All right. Are you ready for questions?
I am. I wanted to paint my face half green today, but she said no.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Rebecca, let's answer. Let's jump in here with Rebecca is asking, I am a special education teacher for math in 7th, 8th grade. I often feel invisible, but normally have the most work thrown at me to offset teachers leaving. Holes in the schedule and duties. Continued. And have the most difficult students. How can I find peace if no one is giving me the praise of taking on so much?
That's a great question.
I feel like it's a really common question probably for special education teachers or teachers that are really, really skilled at dealing with, the more troublesome problem, ADHD filled.
Kids no one else wants to deal with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The kids that they go, Miss Dan, can you come in here and talk to him for a second?
All right.
I think this is a tough question because as much as we don't want to need the external validation, it keeps you running sometimes, or sometimes it just gives you a boost. So a student comes back and they tell you how much you meant to them, or they give you some great feedback, or a parent gives you great feedback, something along those lines. It is it fills something in you, right? Or it gives you the gas to keep going. I hear what you're saying, and I am thinking about how like all that I've ever done, I've gone above and beyond. I've done tons of stuff. I have never gotten a shout out. I've never won an award. Like nothing. And so, but I will say that sometimes those things don't happen. You might not be the only one in your school. So it is fixing a problem within the system. So one of the things I would look at is can you create the solution to the problem that you're suffering from, right? Can you scratch your own itch? So one of the things that one of my friends, Miss Maloney, did years ago was she would have the students create like basically like a thank you card for other teachers. And then she would take a whole day, right? Or half a period, and she would have students write notes to teachers that had gone above and beyond, that had done something kind, that might feel like that might be like not feeling like they're winning, but they're winning, but just no one ever says anything to them. And so the students would get these like pre-made cards. They could color them in, and they could just fill in blanks. There could be a number of different things on there, like sentence starters or something like that for certain students. But you're creating this space where you're going to change the culture of your school. You're going to decide that I might not be getting this, so how do I get it to other people, because they might not be feeling this either. And just that feeling of giving, like that, the reciprocity from that is just there. Like you're already feeling better because you're blessing other people. And then you're changing the culture of your school. You're changing your school from this can be a very thankless place to let's create things that are thankful. We had a thing at our school last year that it was hit and miss, but they were trying. It was called the Sunshine Club, which I always thought was weird. That was a weird name for a thing, but their job was to spread sunshine around the school. So they would organize like donuts on Fridays or coffee. They would get local places to donate stuff. They would have, for a while, we did like snacks on Fridays, where they were like a ton of snacks every Friday, and you could just go in and grab, like, it was all stuff that was like the least healthy stuff imaginable, but still it was finding ways to interject sunshine, magic, joy, kindness into your school. So my answer is kind of seems opposite, but I think you're still going to get the same feeling. It's start thinking about what could I do? Maybe start with the letters, having students write letters. And then what this woman would do, Miss Maloney, is take those letters and just divide them out with students after school and then put them in teachers' mailboxes. So they were like surprised by joy the next day. So it might feel like it's like you're shining the light on other people, but that's going to come back to you also. I watch.
And so even if it doesn't, like, I think it's the joy that you get from doing to serving others that, like, we get a lot of joy. We forget that we get joy from that, because sometimes it can just look like more work. All right. Sorry, I was on a different thing. All right. Our next question is coming from KP asking, what are your favorite techniques to increase student participation? The same handful of kids always raise their hands. I don't want to create an intimidating environment by cold calling. Thanks.
So I think some of it is students have different levels of processing. So probably the kids that are answering the fastest are the kids that like already know they can process that they have the answer. I know that in most meetings, like when I did attend meetings, which I was notorious for not going to meetings, is that I didn't always have an answer. So like even like when I'm in church and the pastor wants someone to say something, or they are waiting for like a response. It's a very active church like that. I often think like, I need a minute. So if you could come back, that'd be great. So I think sometimes it's creating moments where you can tell kids, listen, I'm going to ask for answers to this or examples of this in a moment, but I need you to listen to this next part, or we're going to do this next thing. Or maybe there's a written component for it first, and then you're asking kids what they wrote, but you're keeping an eye on things. Or I would often go around when we're doing journals, and so a journal is a good example, right? Because it's very low cost of entry. There's very little risk in sharing a journal because there's not a right or a wrong answer. So what I would go around and ask kids, like, hey, real quick, I'm just curious, like, what? So I go to a kid that doesn't typically raise their hand. I say, I'm just curious, like, what are you writing about? Or do you have a good answer? Or can I look at what you have? If they say yes, only if they say yes, then I look at it and I go, oh, that's a great one. Would you mind sharing that? Could you share that with the class? Because I think this is such a perfect example of what we're talking about, and it's going to tie in perfectly to what we're talking about. And you don't have to read it word for word. You can, summarize it. Like it's lowering the stakes for kids, but then giving them the heads up and asking their permission if you can call on them. I don't think cold calling is a good move. I think it just creates a level of anxiety. I remember being in school and feeling incredibly anxious if they just called him, Mr. Reynolds, do you have an answer? And it's like, you're just trying to, like, and I'm not saying you're of course not doing this, but teachers that I had, I felt like it was a level of like shaming, like you weren't paying attention, so they called on you. So you're looking for those students that you're going to ask, and then thanking kids that constantly raise their hand, because you don't want to diminish their level of activity in class. So oftentimes I would say, like, hey, Kevin, man, you give great answers all the time. I'm going to hold on and see if somebody else has an answer first, because you 1, 2, 3, 4, you all are incredible every single day. Just hold on to that for a second and let me see what else we got. And then you could ask kids to share, Paul, do you have an answer that you wouldn't mind giving? If you don't want to, I understand, but like, do you have an answer? And so you're sort of cold calling kids, but it's like permission marketing, right? You're not just putting flyers on people's doors and under their windshields or like all of a sudden popping up. You're gently asking, and then that becomes part of the culture of your class. And the other thing is looking for, I think this is another way to kind of get more engagement, is looking for waiting for a kid for that awkward silence or that awkward ending, right? So like they might be thinking it out while they're telling you and saying, hey, listen, man, it's Paul. How about I come back to you in 1 second and just think about what you want to say? Or saying, hey man, we have a moment. Take your time. Just take your time. We're all good here. And then like praising them when they're done, not just saying, that's really good, thank you for that answer. It's saying like, I really like, you know what? Did everyone hear what Paul said about this? I really like that idea. And maybe it was something you didn't think about before. Maybe it was something that was like, it's such a good example, but like Paul said this, and that's such a good thing to remember. So now Paul's not just feeling like good job, pat on the head. It's here's what you actually said. And oh bro, that was good. That was magical. Some of those things can help as well.
Excellent. All right. Our next question is
wife.
It's coming from M. Are you making fun of me?
No, I'm just feeling hopped up and ready to do it.
All right. I'm a first-year teacher in the classroom of a veteran teacher of 25 plus years. He's clearly an extremely competent teacher, and the kids love him. It's been hard for me to fill those shoes. How do I overcome the feeling of having to be a perfect teacher?
When I'm going to make a dumb dad metaphor here.
Oh,
and when we're trying to fill someone else's shoes that came before us, I think it's a bad move. We need to buy new shoes, right? You need to create something new, create something that's uniquely you. Because what that veteran teacher that was before you brought to the table is something that might not be what you're good at anyway, right? You might be really, your gifts might lie in a completely different area. And so that's where you want to pull from. So you can honor them. They were amazing. Thank God that they were there for the last 25 years. Thank goodness that they had these relationships with students and were wildly competent and were the teachers that they were. That's awesome. Now it's got to be somebody new that comes on. And so what that's going to take for you is knowing that you're new to the team, that you let me draw this comparison, which is a comparison I make a lot. If we are looking at someone that's been doing almost anything well, not terrible, anything well for 25 years, and looking at someone that just started, unless you're some kind of prodigy, you're just not even going to compare to that. So don't. So you're not going to look at someone who has been married for 25 years and in a really great relationship, and you just started dating someone, or this is your first year of marriage, and you're like, how come we're not like that? Because you didn't put in the work yet, right? It is looking at someone that plays piano, someone that's been acting, someone that bakes, right? Like, I'm not going to be over here with my easy bake oven looking at someone that has been doing the game for 25 years and comparing myself. So it's just a reminder that, look, this is a craft. It is something you are going to get better at over time. And instead of beating yourself up about that, it is actively looking about growing and getting better, and having patience with yourself that you will get there. One day you will look back and I'm telling you, this happens all the time. You look back and you see someone that's new and you're like, you can see the mistakes that they're making. You can see areas that they would grow. But I'll tell you another thing that you're going to see too, is that oftentimes you look back and that fire that was in people, man, you trade one for another, right? Like, once, even if you got fire lessons, it is, I've done lessons that were great. They worked every year, but it was the first few times I did it that were so good. And the later you do it, you kind of, sometimes you have to, like, I don't know. It's not as incredible. You feel like Mick Jagger singing, freaking Start Me Up like 27,000 episodes later. And that wasn't really, I don't know. I ran out of gas on right there. I don't even know what happened. But
your metaphor just kind of fell apart.
Kind of petered out. But my point is still the same, that you have something great you're going to bring to that class. You might not even know what it is yet. The kids might not even know what it is yet, but look out. Just pour fuel on that fire and watch what happens.
Absolutely. All right. Our next question is coming from Sprinkled to Magic.
Wait, first of all,
I know, right?
First of all, do we have like a sound effect that, like,
we should have some magic, like glitter, like
you win? Yeah. Come
shoot
on.
out from the corner.
Go ahead.
Okay. Chat GPT thoughts. I don't know what that means.
I don't know either.
I tried to Google it. It was no help. But Maisha said she felt like it could be a great tool. Maisha, let us know what that is.
Yeah, I will go back to that question.
Magic. I don't have a next one. I don't have another one up.
I hate when I don't know what something is. I feel so lame.
Oh, right? When you don't know?
Yeah.
Well, you shouldn't. There's so many acronyms in education. Like, it's kind of absurd. How can you know every single one unless everybody knows every single one? I can't imagine. There's so many for SPED alone.
SPED teachers they speak a different language.
Oh,
you don't even know what they're saying half the time.
There are actually memes like that like, there are even memes for like dyslexia. Like, if you can read this, you're a parent.
I would be in a meeting and, like, thank God the co-teacher was there, because I would just act like I knew exactly what was going on. I would just do this,
Chat GPT is AI. So it's like a database with writing.
Oh, yes. I do know what this is.
It is new and everywhere in the news, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. So, here's the thing.
About this one.
If kids are using something like that to just create an essay or a piece of writing, that's dangerous. I think the move there is, one of the things I would focus on is breaking down that writing. Like, why does this work? Why does this piece of writing work? And why would it be better than maybe something you would write normally? What are places and spaces in our lives that this might actually be applicable? So I know one of the hardest things for me, like as a business owner, is writing copy. So for any particular workshop we're doing, a mastermind we're doing, a description box in a YouTube, the description in your IG, right? Like we always have these meetings that we're breaking down, like, what's the best way to convey this so that's clear, it's thoughtful, and things like that. that sounds great to me for something like that, right? So if I had a program that could help me do that, that might be great. But I think it's worth looking into and seeing like what are the problems there also. Like how is the AI spot on every time? How is it not every single time? So I think it's taking things to that level where you're helping students to sort of like see, like in real world, what are the benefits and the negatives there. And then real quick, wife, before I call on you, I see you have your hand up and I appreciate your cooperation. Just give me 1 second. Is that's not gonna, like, if it's taking it back to your why. If what we're here is to help you to become smarter, to better communicate your story, who you are, what you're about, you know, it's not about finding an easier way to do it. It's finding out how can you get better. That's what we're here for. It's not just handing stuff in. It's doing the deep work of who you are and what you're about, and then conveying that to the world. That's why we learn. I think part of the reason we learn how to write. But go ahead.
So Mark Fleming in the comments said that Chat GPT is an essay writing AI. Yeah. And he said that it's really concerning. Or personally, he said it's rather concerning as a teacher. And I think I agree. If like Maisha said, basically you can type in a topic and it can create a product for you. It's like that's scary for an educator to like discern, are they really writing it anymore? Like, so there's ways that y'all have figured out how to figure that out for with students now, even as technology has advanced. But when you go this level, it gets it gets a lot more concerning for like cheating. And how do you actually manage that then? That's the dark side. Everything has a light and a dark side, right? I think there's a
bigger conversation here though around then what are we teaching and why are we teaching it? So when, there was so much rote memorization, right? When we were kids, right? Yes. You had to learn like what planets there were, how many planets there were, all the states, all the capitals, all the rivers, all the oceans. Now it's just kind of silly sometimes because you can just call on that information from 1,000 different devices, whether it's your Google Home or your Alexa or your phone or whatever. Right. You can just say it to things and they just tell you the answer. And I think that there is a value in learning certain things, right? So like whether it's your multiplication tables, Marley and I were talking about this the other day. I do think certain information around, geography and things of that nature should be quick recall. But I think when we don't have to have that as a quick recall, we are freeing space up in our minds to be able to do more deep and detailed and work. So but
it's even what Maisha is saying. Again, in the comments, it's like and I agree, it's taking away the art of writing.
It could, but then
I think everything has a light and dark side. There's a good and a bad.
Yes. I'm not saying that it's just great. Like I'm saying that
I didn't think
it helps us to really have a deeper conversation about like, all right, well then what are we teaching? Yes, right? Don't just let it take away your lesson. Oh, this is what I used to do. And now the kids can't do it because they can just type it in. Well, then how do we level that up? Right. So if I agree. I think sometimes it takes some vision around how is this making me become better? How are we leveling up our lessons? How do we go above this so that it's not just something that's even more meaningful, because this is what we have to compete with.
Instead of just worrying around something and fear-based. Agreed 100%. Just was going the other side. All right, Paris is up next. I think this is a question. Best way to handle the class sub if nothing goes how you planned. Sub disregarded the students and the students were disrespectful to the person and didn't meet the expectations I set for them.
Paris, I think part of the reason this is so difficult when we're out is because I think I even spoke to this last week on the live feed, and it's going to come out as a short, but it's when you're not there, what do you do? Like, so you can set the expectation. Here's what everyone's going to be working on. Here's what I expect from you when I'm not here. Here's what's going to be due. But every once in a while, we get a sub that comes in that is so bad that it goes the other way. So my daughter has a sub right now. I'm going to put this out there for science that she said for the first 2 to 3 weeks, they didn't hear that person say anything. They came in,
Clear
they're sitting
directions,
there,
like do this.
doing
That's
work.
it.
Yeah, here's what the assignment's on the Google Classroom. Go do it. And didn't know anything about science. Didn't know anything about clearly how to engage with young people. And so she said it was just it's madness in there. And she's not learning anything. She's just like plugging away and putting crap into some kind of Google folder, and then they just check it as done or not done. So there's no like learning happening there. And so to me, it's like it's a bigger question for administration around, can we create some sort of systematic thing for teachers where, one, when subs come in, subs know exactly what's happening. Like no matter if you've been at our school or not, here's the game plan. Here's how we run class. Two, this is what it's expected of all students when teachers aren't here. And so we make something that's like across the board a norm. So we're shaping culture in the school. And then can someone go in and check on them every so often, right? Can it be like once a day, twice a day, quarterly, whatever it is? Someone just popping in and making sure things are cool, because that, and then if that sub doesn't work, then we don't ask them back again, right? And I realize that there's a sub shortage, but I think that it is creating the expectation of what we want. We don't just want a body, right? If we just want bodies, then go ask someone's grandmom, right? They come in and sub. This was my idea for lunch duty forever. It's like, get grandmoms to do it because they're the greatest, or grandfathers, because no one's going to mess around with like someone's sassy older grandmom. And when she tells you to clear your table, you're just going to be like, yes, ma'am, I will do it. So, you know, I call it lunch grannies. I just think it's a great idea. Maybe this
really
is a whole
is
business.
actually is so brilliant.
Could do it. Lunch grannies. Just got to make sure they don't pull out rulers or belts or anything, like old school on us. But I think that that's the bigger conversation. And then I would hold students accountable for the work that did or did not get done, for behaviors that were caused, because that's a bad reflection on you, right? Like I want students to know that you are showing people what I'm about when I'm not here. So I need you to play it cool. I don't care what they did. I don't care what they said. I don't care that it was a grown up. Like if they were being out of pocket, then it's not your job to retaliate that. Your job is to get work done, because you know that this is what Reynolds is going to expect when I come back to class. And so that is the conversation I would have with students around their power. You have the power to do the right thing. You don't just have to do the what you felt like was called for, not just because that's where you tended to lean. Do the right thing because it's the right thing every single time, and know that I don't care what subs in here. I'm going to hold you accountable for what's going down. And then I always do like a side conversation with kids that I know were probably trying to be on point in class, and saying like, yo, so I had this kid, Jordan, for years. And I'd be like, yo, Jordan, you got to come talk to me, man. What was going on in here when I wasn't here? And Jordan would tell me, not in a tattling way, but just in a like, yo, I'm going to keep it real with you sort of way, Reynolds. Like, it wasn't everyone. It was these three dudes, or the sub was out of pocket and they were acting a particular sort of way, and then it was pissing everyone off or whatever, because there are those folks that have existed, at least in my school. So that's some of the stuff that I would do, but I would look for a culture change, take it to your administration, maybe create some sort of subcommittee, because schools love subcommittees, where it's a number of us that are going to create some norms around what it looks like to be a substitute in our school, and how students are going to act and behave and perform when subs are in the room as well.
All right, our buddy Steph Shook is up next.
What
asking, I am finishing my resume to apply to other schools. What kind of preparation should I have if I choose to move from middle school to high school? It also happens to be the school my daughter goes to.
You know, Steph, that's a good question. So when you change schools, how can you prepare to move? I think one, it's closing the door as best as possible on the previous situation, right? So whether that's, and I try to, there's a lot. I mean, I'm sure you're not moving because your old place was good, but this is just better. I'm assuming that is not the situation. Most people move because something is horrible and they're going somewhere better. But it's, I think, leaving somewhere with a bad taste in your mouth, it doesn't do anything. So I think it's being thankful for the things that happened, for the people that were there, for the students you engage with that made this any level of a blessing. So it's maybe writing notes to some of those students, writing notes to some of those teachers, because, you know, it's sending you out on a note that you can be proud of, and not just like, you know, I think of like, man, one of the greatest scenes in television history, and I forget her name, but it was Don Draper's secretary in Mad Men. At some point in the show, she's like walking out of a job and she's got like sunglasses on. I think she's smoking a cigarette and carrying her stuff out. It was like such a great badass moment. But I would rather leave and look like a blessing. And when I left my school last year, I tried my hardest to do that, even though I was so angry. I was so aggravated at the direction of the school. I was so angry about a number of things that went the way that they did last year. But it was trying to focus on that goodness and not leave with a mic drop or something. And then going into this school, and as best you can, going in with a clean slate. So it is, you know, do I want to make this comparison? No, I think that now everyone's wondering what that was probably, but
me too.
trying to be well, I'll say that I'll use them. I had a buddy that was married for a long time, got divorced, and I was out to dinner with him and a couple of other friends one time. And I said, so what's it like, man? Like, you know, I haven't been on a date since 1995. Like, what is it like to like go out on a date again? Is it exciting? Is it fun? And he said he was in his mid 40s. And he goes, Reynolds, no one in their mid 40s is out there in the field and hasn't been through some sort of trauma. So folks are bringing that with them when they go on the date. They're looking for like, but are you like this? But are you like this? And he said, that has been my experience so far. And so when you go to this new school, everything won't be perfect. But can you look for the goodness? Can you look where you're going to fill in the gaps? Can you look where how can we be fruitful? How is me being here make this better? How is me being here make this better? And look for those opportunities instead of, and so that's just where I would, that's how it takes
a lot of work when there's a lot of drama and trauma that's happening at a school. And she put in the comments that there is a lot of that happening. I'm not going to read it out, but there's a lot of that happening. So she's like trying to make a clean break. I think you have to really choose to focus on the other side that you said, because it's so easy to focus on the negative and the bad and all that and the drama. And yeah, best of luck, Steph. It's definitely a transition. We know we were there. Okay. Our next question, I got to get to it.
Do it.
Oh no!
I'm going to remind people while we're on here, tomorrow at 11 a.m. I am
There's
doing
a little thing. I put a little thing in there.
Oh, did you make it?
Yeah.
Let's see if it works this time. It does.
Yeah.
All right. So tomorrow we're doing a real world mini PD. I thought you weren't calling it real world. You're just going to call it mini PD. Oh, you change your mind. We're doing a mini PD, 11 a.m. We're going to do these every Monday going forward at 11 a.m. And look, if that time doesn't work for you, it's a 10. It's going to try to be 10 minutes. It's probably going to be 20 minutes to 30 minutes because I can't help myself. But
you already said it was 30 minutes.
Oh, did I?
You forget what you say. 30 minutes.
That is just a sprinkling of goodness on your Monday, and it's going to be just like a YouTube video, but in a live format. And if you can't catch it live, then it will live in perpetuity on YouTube anyway. So,
but it won't be like this. It won't be a question and answer kind of thing. It'll just be live.
Yeah. So that's how we're going to roll it out. And it's only on YouTube starting tomorrow, Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. Hit it, wife.
All right. Well, Lisa is up next. She's on Facebook asking your thoughts on 4-day weeks in schools, all grade levels.
Not even. It's one of those decisions we make, Lisa, as educators or as educational institutions, where it's going to be great for some kids. It will be, because some kids are self-starters. Some kids don't need that much. Some kids have great homes. They're going to go home. They're going to have a 3-day weekend every single weekend, and they're going to have stuff to do, places to go, people to hang out with, love to get. And then there are other students, just like summer vacation. There's some kids that are going to go explore Europe and go to Disney World and stay at their grandparents and go to camp and do all these fun things. And then there's other kids that can't wait to some extent to go back to school in September because it's because school home's not like that. I had someone, Neil Gupta, if y'all haven't looked him up, that's Gupta, is an educator out of Canada, I think. And so I saw him speak one time and he said something to the effect of like, did you ever wonder if you were the first person to say hello to a student in the morning? And his prompt was to like, get out there, right? So a lot of stuff I am typically talking about, like going into the front of the school, standing in the hallway, meeting kids downstairs when they're eating breakfast, and just saying hello to them with a level of love. I know that's a weird word for everyone in education, but like having love for your students, wanting to surprise kids with joy and with happiness, and being not just, oh, good morning, hello, yeah, good morning. It's like, hey man, how are you doing? Like trying to be authentic, trying to be intentional, because you may in fact be the first person that child talked to today. And I know many of my students will come from houses where mom and grandma were working 2 jobs. They had to wake themselves up. They got themselves something to eat or just got themselves together, came to school to eat, didn't talk to anyone in the morning, didn't talk to anyone on the bus, on the train, on the walk to school, or in the building. And so when they finally get to your door, that is the first time they're saying hello to someone. And so if we're mindful of that, 4-day weeks don't work for some kids, right? It's another day of loneliness, another day of I don't know what to do with myself, another day of getting in trouble. And so I think, there's a lot of different variants you could do of that. But what if that 5th day was optional, right? So instead of having things like our school used to have this stupid thing called Saturday school, where you would come in on Saturday if you were in trouble, if your grades were failing, and it was just a total nightmare all the time. But if we had an optional piece where kids could show up on that Friday, or if we had something else, right? It was like a educational experience that students could show up for, something that would be fun, that would be engaging, that would be exciting. So yeah, but I realize that most schools are going to 4-day weeks because they're trying to save money. And if that's the case, that's a whole nother conversation, because we should never be trying to save money in education. We should be just spending more money, but it's in like
better ways,
in a smart way.
All right. KP is up next asking, what do you like to do for half days with the students? We have 3 in a row coming up for report card conferences. It's not enough time to dig into content, but I don't want to waste the days.
So you don't, but you remember that. So one of the things I remember is that just because we're not working on lessons doesn't mean we're not working on character. So something like creating the cards I talked about earlier, creating cards for other teachers to give for students to put in their mailboxes or hand to them when they go to their classes, as a way to build culture in the school. Maybe it's a learning experience. So maybe you take a theme, and these were days when I would do something like, if we're talking about leadership, I would take students outside, get a tarp that was 2 different colors, one on the top, one on the bottom. And the game was, your group is going to stand on top, and I want to see how fast you can flip the tarp over without anyone stepping on the grass around it or on the concrete around it. We would do things like minute to win it games, but we would tie it either to a lesson or to culture. I never try to trick. I never try to say, this is really about Lord of the Flies, and it wasn't. But it's that sort of thing could happen. Or that's a good day to watch. Like, I'm not just about just watching movies or TV shows or something like that, but there was an episode of The Simpsons called Das Bus that is loosely based on Lord of the Flies. So sometimes we would watch that, or we would, if we read The Sniper, we might watch the first episode. There was a TV show with Ryan Felipe, I think his name is, called Shooter. Watch the first episode of that. And so then we would talk about like those pieces. Sometimes it's playing a game, sometimes it's doing a review. But I like the piece of either, especially during report cards, I feel like TVs and movie keep kids calmer, but we want a reason for this. So do I have something you have to fill out? Do I have something you have to do with it? How are we tying this into what we're doing? Or it's getting that energy out, distracting kids by creating an exceptional and fun and engaging learning experience. And I think that starts with, where else could we go in the building? What are our options? And then what would that lend itself to? So we would every year for Merchant of Venice, like we would go. We didn't have a stage at our school because we didn't have anything. But it was like, where can we go and talk about the stage? So if you have an auditorium, where might we talk about the Globe Theater in here? If you're talking about geometry, where else could we go in the building and do geometry? Could we go to the parking lot with sidewalk chalk and draw all the same stuff out on the ground instead? So it's thinking about things like that is how I would try and dream that up.
All right. Steph Shook is up next asking, have you worked on an EV versus resume? Our TOI is encouraging us young, strong female educators to put one together to bolster our career ladder.
I don't know what any of those mean.
I know. Oh my gosh.
I'll tell you what, kids. That's why we call it Real Rap with Reynolds, because this happens in school too. If I don't know the answer, I'm not going to pretend. So I'm real curious, especially since you're saying it's for us. I like that you put it in quotes, young, strong female educators. Are there other educators in here that would identify as young, strong female educators?
Wait, is it supposed to be, because she wrote it, is that an L or is that a, like, female and male? Is it supposed to be?
I think that looked like just a typo.
Okay.
But like, has anyone else used this? Was it effective? And I'd love to see that in the comments and see what that means as well. If you want to reframe
CV, not an EV. I guess that was an error. A CV is curriculum vitae, VITAE. Do you know what that is?
No. No idea.
Yeah.
And look, the
CV
thing is, like, you know,
he's been using regular resumes for a minute.
But I only have ever had two.
I know.
And I basically ripped them off from someone else and saw, like, here's how you do a resume. Because to be honest, my resume is not that impressive.
Yeah.
Like, I went to school, I have a bachelor's. I never won anything, like I said, in my life. And so I wasn't a particularly good high school student. I wasn't a particularly good college student. Because I wasn't a good high school student made me not a good college student, which I worked harder than everyone else, but I just wasn't smarter than everyone else. And so what I do, I think the magic that my giftedness doesn't necessarily show up on a resume. It shows up in the interview. It shows up in the stories. It shows up in what I've done. So you want a resume, go read my book. It would be a better take on, like, whether or not you want me. That's a long resume, but like whether or not you wanted me to be an educator in your school, or look at my YouTube channel. But like, but I'm curious, like, how folks are navigating that space. I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, someone said Fiverr. Basically, a CV is a resume.
Okay.
And I would second that info. I just think, like, I'm not good at writing like resumes and that sort of stuff, and you're not either, like, because that's about you and you don't like doing that. But I would hire someone like off of Fiverr to help me with that, like someone that's their jam.
Yeah.
Fiverr's really inexpensive also.
Just use some AI software out there.
Right? Oh, goodness. Okay. I'm sorry, Steph. That wasn't very helpful. But she's got no, that's the same question.
I would drop it in the Facebook group too.
Why is this being weird? The comment section on this is like keeps repeating. I just saw that same question 3 times.
Maybe she just asked it a lot.
Maybe.
She was like, Jenai,
I know.
can you please answer my question?
All right. Here's one from our buddy, the dysregulated educator.
Love this name.
Asking, how would you handle a parent who confronts a student about a disagreement with their child? Parent did not contact teacher or the office, went straight to the student.
Bro, I mean, come on. Oh, not even. I think there's a lot of variables at play here, and I think you could answer this in a number of different ways. So if I have a teacher whose child had a disagreement with another child, so like if my Marley had a disagreement with a kid, something happened in school, and then I went and spoke to that kid. Now, look, I've been there. Let's share this. I won't say any names. I was at breakfast at my daughter's school the other day. They had bring a positive male role model to school, and if you and then you have breakfast, and we did like an activity together. And while I was there, she pointed out a kid that she knew that had been an issue this year. And part of me wanted to go say something like, yo, my man, come here. But I know that I would do that from a place of that kid would actually, I know, because this is my special sauce. I know what my special sauce is. That kid would feel better about his life, about his relationship with my daughter, about school when I got done talking to him, right? I'm not trying to crush people. I'm trying to like help children learn that again, they have power to do good. And instead they use it to do things that hurt folks. But I also realize that hurt folks. And so how can you take that same thing that hurts you and turn it into a positive? And so that would have been my conversation. But I think it has to be having the conversation with the parent around, look, here's how we're going to handle this. And we need to have that conversation. And I think oftentimes we can think like, why do I have to talk about this? Why do I have to tell this grown ass person how to act? Or that you can't just show up at a school and have a whole full conversation with another kid. But just because we get older doesn't mean we get wiser, right? There's all kinds of grown-ups that you see them all over the place that act like children, or you can tell that they didn't put the work in, or that they're dealing out of their own trauma, or that triggered something in them. So we have to teach people how to act. And so I would have that conversation in a gentle way, and then let them know that going forward, this is what needs to happen. And then that's the line. Now we have the boundary. And if they step outside that boundary, then we have to do something about this. But it is, and then I'd of course have a conversation with both of those students and mediate that as well. Try and see what kind of answer, what kind of solution we can come up for that. But oftentimes I think it's, I know that everyone on here has had parents that aren't as responsive as you would like. They didn't really take a look at their kids' grades. They weren't helping them with their work. They didn't even know that something was a problem in school. But everyone's coming from such a different place. Every student is coming from a family that's so vastly different that we'd love for there to be like these normal adults that live with them and work with them and things like that. But or not even just normal, but folks that like have some wherewithal of like how to operate and navigate the world, but they don't. And so it's not crushing folks for that, but it's just loving them where they are and accepting them for who they are, not for who you want them to be, but then teaching them here in this school, this is how we roll. And this is why. And your child is utterly important to us. We don't want anything harmful to happen to them. We don't want anything dangerous to happen to them. We don't want them to get into a fight or get bullied or any of that stuff. But we need you to bring that to us because we're going to handle this full scale. We're not just going to go to that kid and say, knock it off. Don't ever do that again. And if you do, this is what's going to happen. We're going to get that child involved in services. We're going to mediate that situation. We're going to make sure that all the teachers know and it's never going to happen again, or we can at least minimize to a great degree whether or not something would happen again. So it's walking people through some of those steps so they see full picture why we're doing this. It's not just because I said so, but it's because it's actually going to work better than what you just did.
Right. I think it's also, in the comments, she said that she mentioned when I say confront, it was a full on confrontation. There wasn't even a friendly chat. And with someone like that, it's important to put boundaries in place because that's a child that they went to. Like,
on some level, I've had some success with this too, where I'll almost like give props to parents to say like, look, like what you did wasn't the move, but thank God your kid has someone that cares for them like that loves them like that, that's going to show up for them like that. Now there's just a better way to do it. And let me show you how we do it. And it's also for the safety, because we wouldn't want someone to do that to your kid.
Right.
I've had moms getting in fights in front of my school like that, where they go, oh, that's the kid that jumped you. And the next thing you know, it's like, there's a brawl and you're like, oh, wait, that's mom's? Like, how do we break up a mom fight? No one wants to break up a mom fight.
No.
It's scary.
But if someone touched my kid, I can't say that I wouldn't potentially lose myself.
I'm answering this question knowing full well who I am married to.
Yes. Okay, moving on. Let's leave that subject.
Yeah.
Mr. Boland is up asking, how do you make the biggest impact in your school?
So I think.
Oh, that was for me. No worries.
Oh, all right. Mr. Boland, how does anyone make the biggest impact in their school? you have to realize that you can't be everything, and you can't be everything to every student. And you're not even that person for every student. Not every kid's needs what you have, what you're bringing. I think it's figuring out what your giftedness is. What is your special sauce? What's your thing that you bring to the table? What's the thing that makes you you? And then you amplify that and go on 11 every single day. So for me, it is building relationships with students and creating engaging lessons, right? There's a ton of things that anyone I've ever worked with will tell you that I am not good at. Even people that I work with now, right? I'm horrible at texting people back. It's just like a thing that like, I suck. I'm stuck at getting back to emails. I suck at a lot of stuff, but it's not even focusing on that. It's what do I do well, right? It's helping kids to be seen, to be heard, to be cared for, which is why I do the bubble mics in the hallway and the hands on a stick and the signs and all the goofiness that I do is because I'm trying to surprise kids with joy, help them show up, help them to feel seen, help them to feel cared for. And so when we look at what is the thing we do best and just focus on that, and then remember that teaching is actually a communal activity, that we're working as part of a team, that I can't pitch the ball and catch the ball and play first base and coach the team. It is everybody working together to make this organization great. And then looking at, all right, well, what are we all doing and where do these things overlap and where can we help one another out so this puzzle piece of a school fits together perfectly. That's where magic happens. And that's where how you play a part in creating magic in your school.
All right. I think this is a question.
Let's
Going
do it.
with Melissa is asking, tomorrow is my 8th week teaching. I'm missing curriculum, team lesson, and planning and classroom management. I've had admin come in a few times. I'm at a loss and overwhelmed. Any suggestions? Now's a good time to mention that thing, even though we don't have a sign up.
So, all right. So I'm going to say this. I don't have a sign up ready yet. Hopefully it's up tomorrow, but I didn't want to jump the gun. What the hell does that even mean anyway? Jump the gun. So Melissa, we have a free mastermind coming out that's called How to Get Your Class Back. We're going to launch it tomorrow.
Hopefully.
And it is a 30-minute masterclass, free with resources and everything. And you just have to sign up to show up. And I'm going to walk you through here, like what I think, because I'm trying not to give people too much stuff. It's like these two things that if you get these right, you can drastically change the state of your classroom. So whether that's, your classroom is just almost perfect, or if it's far from perfect, we want to meet both of those needs. And so that's what we're going to be doing. So that's one thing. The other thing is, look, let me say this. I'm going to give you actual practical tip on how to do this. It's realizing that you can't do everything. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. So how can I notch up these things that I'm doing and then do better? So if you're watching a YouTube channel, not everything that you watch from, let's say, teacher YouTubers or reading books is going to be immediately applicable. But what you're looking for is what works. So, and remembering that, like, look, some things feel unnatural, but some things to me feel unnatural. But if I know they work, would I rather feel unnatural or like things are out of control? So for instance, I had a buddy that did for years to get control of his class. He once taught, my friend Nick Pascal, once taught a classroom in the lunchroom of the school. And I want to say there were 50 to 60 students, seniors in that class. In the lunchroom, it was insane. And when I tell you that my man would hold his hand up and say, yo, I need everyone's attention in 5, 4, 3, and they would be quiet by one. I mean, 50 to 60 kids, silent and paying attention. I just thought, what kind of black magic are you working with, bro? Either that or you were like ordained by God to be the attention getter. He was like, well, all it is like, I do the same thing every single day. And it's a visual for kids. So they're not even listening to me, but they see me with my hand in the air and I'm doing the thing. And then I just don't talk till they're done. So I start doing this and it feels super weird. I feel like a kindergarten teacher. I'm like, all right, everyone, I need your attention in 5, 4, 3. And it took some time so kids knew that like I really wasn't going to talk. I really wasn't going to move forward. But and that I wasn't even telling them to stop their conversation, not stop right now in mid-sentence and look at me. It's literally giving kids a chance to go, all right, well, I'll get back to you. I want to tell you the rest of that. And then paying attention. But that was so uncomfortable to me on a level that like, it's so silly and simple, but it bothered me. But it just got my class's attention. And so I think that there are certain things that if you just run the play, that you can get that back from kids, right? So there's certain things about being consistent. There's certain things about how complex are you making your lesson plans? How complex are you making what needs to be done? Are you checking for understanding? There's certain simple shifts that you won't be necessarily an expert teacher after you do them, but like your ship doesn't feel like it's sinking. Like, you know, we're like, all right, we're not sinking right now. Like we hit that iceberg and we keep going and like we can resurrect this situation. So I think it's looking for what are the small shifts that you can do that. So look, I have a bunch of classroom management videos. Especially if you go on YouTube, this is good for anyone's YouTube channel, not just mine. You go up to the top where it says like about, and it says videos and things like that. All the way to the right, there's a magnifying glass and it's a search bar. You can type in classroom management, type in relationships. That's going to give you some really good stuff. We also have, if you email us, we have courses that we sold around classroom management, around classroom engagement, things like that. So there's a paid aspect too. Free aspect is YouTube. And so I think that it's also, remember, this is the hardest thing, right? You're 8 weeks in. You're really trying to get this thing up and running, and it's so much newness. It's just, sometimes it's the way that it is. And so if the best that you can do is what you're doing, know that you're only going to grow from here if you try. As long as you don't give up, you're only going to get better. You have no choice, right? Like that's kind of the beauty of things being, I've been in classes where I'm like, this couldn't get any worse. And I could tell you stories, but they're not appropriate for YouTube, of things that have happened, things kids have said to me, things like completely disrespectful, that I felt crushed at the end of the day. And the only thing the thought that made me feel better is, this is like gotta be rock bottom in education. The only way this can go is up. So how am I going to get it there? And that to me feels empowering, because I know that it's only up from here. And every single new thing I try, as long as I stick to it, it will make it a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. And so that's some of my thoughts around how I would kind of navigate that space. Want to do one more?
We're out of questions.
Oh, okay.
Look at that.
Cool. Well, look, I'm going to remind everyone that tomorrow at 11 a.m. we're doing these mini PDs, right? My goal, look, PDs suck at schools. We all know this. Professional development is like pretty crappy. And so, which is why I left all the time. I just fake a phone call and go to my classroom. And so what we're trying to do is create these weekly mini professional developments to help you be the teacher you're called to be. The only thing that my goal with YouTube is to create content that helps you increase your impact and your influence, so that you can be the teacher you dreamed of being. That I think everyone can do this. I don't care where you come from, what your level of expertise is coming in. I know everyone else seems like they're doing a better job when you start out, but like, you can be great. And I think that it's running certain plays, it's doing certain things, it's showing up in a certain way that you can actually do this stuff. I really believe that in my heart. And so what we're doing is trying to create something that Sunday Night Teacher Talk is a space to, get help when you need it. Monday, mini professional developments are going to be something that are going to like really help you move the needle in your classroom. And then you'll start getting weekly videos starting this week that will come out every single week that are going to help you in some way, shape, or form, whether that's introducing you to new tech, introducing you to new resources, or me just sharing something that I think is going to help you next level your teaching. And so that's kind of what we're looking at in this. And anything else?
Nope.
Cool.
Oh, you can keep an eye out. There will be the sign up for the free masterclass will be in the Facebook group. And when it's ready on the website, it will be there too.
Yeah.
But
So
we'll make a little announcement.
Yeah, we'll make an announcement. We'll make sure that everyone that needs to know about that will need to know, and it's completely free, like I said. So that's it, gang. I hope that you have a really wonderful rest of your Sunday, and go support the Eagles because you really want that Super Bowl. Even though I just found out I'm going to be in Nebraska for the Super Bowl.
I know.
I won't even be in Philadelphia.
I'm gonna watch it by myself.
That is. So if anyone's in Nebraska, you want to watch the Super Bowl with me, then maybe just hit me up. So all right, gang, we'll see you next week. And that's it, right?
Yep.
Cool.
Peace.
Peace.